my great honor to welcome Rabbi David Ingber to our community. We're all in for a treat. I was just asked to not say anything that would be over the top. So you can look at Rabbi's bio online if you're really curious. But I want to say just from my heart that this is a friend and teacher who has more than just smarts and wisdom and humor and personality. He has heart. And words that come from the heart enter the heart. So I want you all to just soften in that place of heart to receive. Rabbi and I share a number of dead rabbis that we have studied with. One of them, Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. And Reb Tzadok says that there's 3 stages in the taking in of Torah. And in the beginning, we study Torah as Mikra is God's Torah, Torah Hashem. And then when we take it into our lives and into ourselves, it becomes our Torah, it becomes Torah telling. Reb Tzadok says there's yet another level, and this is the level I believe that Rabbi embodies, and it's the level known as Sicha, that your ordinary conversation becomes Talmud, that you're taking out the garbage, how you're treating and breathing the world and the day becomes a word that needs Talmud, that needs study. So with that, I want to introduce my friend, Rabbi.
Thank you, Estelle. So good to be here with all of you. So first of all, I want to say that you know, if I'm on the level of Rav Tzadok, who said that Sicha, that just conversation is Torah. Oy vavoy, if you would have seen how I was taking out the garbage today. Unbelievable. But you know, I like the word Sicha because it has in it Siach, which is also connected with vegetation. B'chol Siach asad ater mitzmach. Ki lo hitir Hashem lokim. That the first vegetation in our primal myth was still needing irrigation before it came out. According to the Midrash, it was the prayers that God was waiting for prayers for those sichim, for those the vegetative life to have life. So I think that's we all need irrigation for that level of consciousness to emerge. So I'm hoping that you get wet tonight, and all of us get a little bit of that. That little bit of irrigation that helps the nourishment that we need in order to be able to arrive with what's already here. So first of all, I want to thank Estelle for doing all the legwork. I'm sorry? And Karen Roekard, of course. And Karen Roekard and my wife, Ariel, for being able to connect with all of you, to let you know that there was going to be some Torah tonight. And I see a lot of friends and people that I haven't seen in a while. And I'm hoping that I get a chance to schmooze with all of you. And Chochmat HaLev is, and also I want to thank Brian and Arik, and I don't even know who you are. And Jeanette also for sitting here. Amazing. Thank you for, it's just, it's beautiful to be here. I think to make a trip to Berkeley is, like when you're living in New York as a rabbi for a place for body, mind, and spirit, Berkeley is a little bit of a Jerusalem, you know. It's a little pilgrimage, you know. Like, wow, there's yoga on every corner. Unbelievable. It was against the law to ask for a plastic bag. I almost got arrested. In New York, they hand them out on the corners. They just hand out plastic bags. I went into that copy store to get my copies made, and as a joke, I just said, "Can I get a bag, please?" A plastic bag, and she looked at me. I said, "Just kidding, just kidding." So, to be here and also to come to a place that is unabashedly Chochmat HaLev, that there is such a thing called Chochmat HaLev, that there is such a thing as wisdom, or Chochmah, which is in Kabbalese, is sometimes referred to, the Zohar says this in other places too. Chochmah is Koach Ma, the power of Ma, the power of what. And so to be in a place where questions and curiosity and inquiry is essentially the name of this quote-unquote institution, that's really a beautiful thing to be here to say. We're engaging in Chochmat HaLev, the wisdom of what is it? Who knows? Ma, what is it? Ma. And of course you know that Lev, the whole Torah is basically it's just another way of saying the heart. And I think that's the deeper meaning of the teaching of the rabbis that say that the last letter of the Torah is a lamed, le'nei kol Yisrael, and the first letter of the Torah is a bet, Bereshit. And if you were somehow as if to say to all of us that our work is the interstice between the end of the story and the way it starts again. That there's this gap between the end of a story until we can splice the Torah and somehow unify the end and the beginning and make it into a heart. Did everybody follow that? The last letter of Lamed, the first letter of Bet, Lev. It didn't say that the first letter was a Lamed and the last letter was a Bet, so that in between the Lamed and the Bet, between the first letter of the Torah, which is a Lamed, and the last letter of Bet, you have all of the narratives. It says that between the Lamed of the last letter of the Torah until you arrive back at the beginning again, the Bet of Bereshit, there's this huge back end of the spiral. Like, we don't know if it's going to even begin again. And in a way, the Torah is the Torah of the broken heart. The broken heart is the split between the Lamed and the Bet, between how things end and how they begin again, between how a narrative or a story, you're in California, you know how people write here. Hollywood endings and Hollywood beginnings and so on. So who knows? Who knows the end and who knows the beginning? The Torah ends with a lamed and it begins with a bet. And so it's all about that, isn't it? It's all about the heart. As Estelle began, saying that it's all about the heart. So what's the heart of the matter? What is the heart of the matter? That's the question. So for me, the heart of the matter, I want to start again and say that I really want to invoke the presence of my Rabbi, Rabbi Zalman, Shaker Shalom, Elama Shalom. And I want to say that I miss you, Rabbi Zalman. Me too. And I haven't really been in Rabbi Zalman land, in Zalmania, Trans-Zalmania, until you get here. And I can hear him, I can hear his voice, and I can hear his humor. And I was just telling a friend a couple of hours ago that I often, those of us who are lucky enough, who are privileged enough to have met him, and then to also have been mentored in some ways by him, we miss those out of the blue Skype calls where he would appear right on our computer screen out of nowhere, and we think it's a Zalman call, and he'd be sitting there in his chair, leaning back and asking us, "Sonu, how are you? So wonderful to hear your voice." And then he would ask us pointed questions about our spiritual practices and how we were doing. He always knew what we were up against, what the sand in the pearl, as it were, what was irritating us enough to make us grow. And the blessing of having a Rabbi, the blessing of having someone who cared enough to ask those questions, something that I was privileged to have, and I miss it. So I wanted to invoke his presence here for us tonight and say that good Rabbi, we're here together to do what you were always telling us to do, which was to to come together, to get it together, and to talk about important things. So the heart. We're in the Omer period. We're in the period between Passover and Shavuot, between liberation. Some people call it negative freedom. Freedom from, not yet freedom to. Right? We're free from slavery, but we don't yet have a mission, as it were. And so in this 49-day period, there is a tradition that says that until the 33rd day of the Omer, until Lag BaOmer, those first 32 days are the same numerical value as the word Lev, right? Lev as in the heart. And the last 17 days are the numerical value of the word Tov, as in good, right? The first moment that God looks at the world and says, I did a good job, right? Good for me. A little label praise for the Creator. Well, Yarlim is Arki Tov, and he says, it's Tov. So the B'nai Sastar and others say, this is the significance of being in the last 17 days, is that if in the first 32 days, the first Lev days, the first 32 days, the heart days, we're cleansing, as it were, our doors of perception, our midot, our different character traits. And then in the last 17 days, we get to actually feast on some of the goodness in preparation for Shavuot, for the receiving of Torah. And this is a teaching, a well-known teaching amongst the tradition, that in order for us to be able to hear Torah, we have to be able to have, as Estelle said, a heart that's soft and open. Kind of, again, the seed metaphor, right? That if the earth itself is not ready to receive a seed, it doesn't matter how much irrigation you offer. So I think it would be nice if Arik would open up our hearts a little bit with a nigun, with a melody that is, it's a kind of, I think it's known as the Berditchever's melody, and it's a good way to begin hearing some teachings about something as lofty as non-duality, is to start off with some good heart nigun. How does that sound? Does it work for you? Okay, great.